President of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, meeting with the troops and the Emir of Mubi. And one of his final words, he said, the story of Boko Haram will be no more very soon. Well, let's see what our guests will have to say, whether Nigeria and the international partners, the neighbors, can sustain the momentum that has been gotten so far. I'll begin with you, Mr. Adebui. What is your take on the successes recorded now? You're one of those who had issues with the possibility of recording this much success in 6 weeks.
It depends on your definition of success. Success in reclaiming towns that have been lost to Boko Haram insurgents. Yeah, we can say that we have won the battle to reclaim those towns, but the war against Boko Haram has not been won. So we need to disambiguate. It is commendable that the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces has visited the troops. That's a morale-boosting visit. It will motivate them. In any case, it is public knowledge and a notorious fact that Nigerian military, Nigerian soldiers, Nigerian armed forces, as well-trained. Their record of performance in peacekeeping efforts in other parts of the world are there for everybody to see. But the point one is making is that it must be a how to go about it, the approach must be twin approach. Win the war, flush them out, but you must also ensure that you win the minds of the people who are predisposed, who are vulnerable, who are always ready to make themselves available for bombs to be wrapped around them and then go detonate and kill innocent people. That is a major challenge. It's a worldwide phenomenon. The superpowers of this world have always been adopting that approach. You pound them, air attack, ground attack, but you must also ensure that you win the minds of the people. Don't also forget that Boko Haram insurgency is a combination of political, economic, and social factors.
Okay, but is that not a place to start?
Oh, certainly, yes. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, the president and commander-in-chief has a responsibility to ensure that no inch of Nigerian territory is captured or taken over by the ragtag army insurgents.
So in summary, you're happy with the efforts that are being put in right now?
Everybody should be happy in that places that have been captured have been, recovered.
And your question of whether 6 weeks is possible to achieve that much of victory has been answered?
I've told you
that is being answered?
I've told you it's a definition of the victory you are talking about. Don't forget, Boko Haram insurgency is not limited to capturing of towns. It was when they started their expansionist policy, being deluded, they wanted to establish a caliphate, that they went beyond their bounds. Even officials of government, because I heard the chairman of the National Orientation Commission saying that we have to be vigilant. Now that they have been flushed out, they'll be running helter-skelter to go regroup and then begin to wreak havoc on soft targets. That is the major challenge. It is not a question of just recapturing towns. It's about ensuring that we nip all these atrocities in the bud. We must embark on preventive measures so that they don't go about into motor parks and, soft targets and kill innocent people. Okay. It's a welcome development. I mean, nobody should play politics with issues like this.
Okay, let's see if we can bring in Dr. Udenta Odenta, Director, Public Communications and Strategy of the Transformation Agenda of Nigeria. Hello, Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria. Dr. Udenta Odenta, what's your take on the victory so far?
Well, my current designation is Assistant Director, Publicity of the PDP Presidential Campaign Organization.
Okay.
Have you noted that? And have you made that adjustment? You know, the term moment for me is a great moment, but my current designation for the campaign organization is as Assistant Director, Publicity.
Okay.
You know, the PDP
Noted.
campaign organization. It's very important to set that record straight.
Okay.
It's the platform I'm using now to speak to you, to Nigerians, and to the world. You can go ahead.
Okay, so what's your position on the victories recorded so far?
The analysis of the Boko Haram moment in Nigerian, political and geographical space must be pursued with rigor in terms of analysis, understanding of the foundational logic of this particular movement and its mutation over the years into different franchises. It is this lack of rigor we find in the narratives, especially from the opposition party. But I'm happy my friend and colleague in Lagos understands that you do not play politics with national security. If you play that kind of politics, you go beyond the boundary of patriotism and you even become implicated in whatever the terrorists are doing. All over the world, everybody must hold their hands and their breath for the incredible work of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The daily toil, the sacrifices, the lives they lose. These are issues beyond politics. And the war against terror is not an event. It's a process. Don't forget that Americans were caught napping for 9/11 with all their sophistications, their drones, their technological advancements, and their intels. It was a caught napping. So and it takes time to emplace the correct right of tools and skills. You retrain the armed forces. They have to undergo special retraining and reprofessionalization in the areas of low-level insurgencies and other kind of new kind of warfare. You have to get the right kind of weapons. You have to place the weapons. You have to get the right kind of intelligence. I need to build partnerships not within the communities alone, but even within the political geography where it is dominant, like the northern, Nigeria and the Maghreb. When you do all these things, then incrementally begin to chip away at the power base and the resource base of Boko Haram. That's what the government has done for the past number of years. I've said on public television that the domestic content of Boko Haram has been liquidated over 2 years ago. The domestic phenomenon that came into our system in 2009, by 2012 was almost over. What they find there was just a few ragtag people there with broken cells, unleashing mayhem here and there. But as a coordinate force, Boko Haram is now a regional and international franchise as part of the international terrorist movement across the world.
Okay, Dr. Denta, if I may come in here, that the victories that have been recorded, Mr. Adegbo in the studio here believes that even though some level of victories have been recorded, there's still the other part of winning the minds of those who are allowing themselves to be used as suicide bombers.
The war against terror is a process, like I said, it's not an event. And a process requires multi-level of intervention, what they call multi-track diplomacy. You use the troops to secure the environment, to push back the terrorists. Then you build in the civilian content of peace building. Don't forget, as you said in your early analysis, that Nigeria has, the government has already unfolded so many programs. Look at the Victim Support Fund. Look at the Reconciliation and Dialogue Committee set up by the government. All these are supposed to now key in. The moment you reclaim the territories which were originally lost to Boko Haram, the moment you've established a measure of control and stabilized the environment, you can then move in at various levels, civil society, who are charged and critically trained in areas of peace building, community leaders who have to weigh in and buy into the process of peace building too, and then the government agencies themselves, with the resources they are now mobilizing to deal with issues of the IDPs, the infrastructure that have been damaged, the livelihoods that is lost. It's a complex, complicated process that is ongoing, and it is working very well. And the government is achieving its set objectives. Don't forget that when the elections were postponed, it was not because Boko Haram were completely wiped out or destroyed as an entity. It was to degrade them in such an extent that they will not constitute a nuisance, an intolerable menace for the conduct of elections in that swath of territory, in the northeast part of the country. And another point you must appreciate, and it's important, our viewers must appreciate that too. Why do you think that Boko Haram became very dominant in the Northeast? Not just because of its ancestral base. Why not the Northwest? If in terms of the economy, the social life, and the material conditions of the people, you don't find much of a difference. We have to look at Niger and Chad as two key players within Nigerian, in the neighboring environment. If you see what happened in Libya when the West bombed Gaddafi out, thousands of people were unleashed, stateless Africa that Gaddafi harbored. They moved into Mali, anchored themselves within northern Mali there. Eventually, they moved down south and became embedded with the remnants of Boko Haram, already decimated by the government. That's why the southward movement of Boko Haram was completely crushed. The sales were broken up, recruitment patterns were disrupted, the supply routes were disentangled. You find them now very comfortable with swath of territories, with porous borders where they can move in soldiers, moving their troops, refuel and then rearm and then radicalize entities within those areas there. The vital thing is that the elections were postponed to create an enabling environment where the actions you find taking place are taking place. And those actions are well coordinated, well calibrated, and you need the support of the regional players to achieve the much you've achieved. And I can assure you,
Dr. Denta, the civilian approach, yes, you said it's a process, but is there something that can be done, I mean, locally, amongst the leaderships of the local communities there, to ensure that the members of the local communities are not brainwashed into becoming suicide bombers at this point?
Step one, you must secure the environment, and that has to be a military security operation. You secure the environment. You saw the president visiting Baga, visiting Mubi, find people returning back. You secure the environment through a sustained push by the military security agencies. That has been done in a number of the territories. Two, people start coming back. The IDPs who are in camps start returning home to their houses, to their livelihood, to their communities. And then they have the security canopy watching them as they come back to re-engage the rhythm of their life and their existence. Three, you start now nursing back to life broken community structures. Youth groups must have been dispersed. Community leadership must have been completely undermined. Traditional rulership and even the religious authorities need some little time to come back together. And with effort of government agencies, civil society structures, and all hands on deck, you can begin to rebuild these broken structures and institutions across the various communities in less than no time in order to now have the enabling environment for this multi-track approach in terms of conflict building, peace building, and then reconstruction and development to occur. You do not do that in the context of a raging war, where people can fall victim to pellets and bombs and so on. You do that when you secure the environment. That is what is happening now. And globally, it is very important that national security is a very touchy subject. No matter how many times the government makes a mistake in that regard, and Americans and Britons have made several mistakes, their people must rally around them. Every utterance must be geared towards patriotic sentiment. If you have issues with the way government is running the show, what you do is you strengthen the capacity of the government through critical constructive intervention by lending support as much as you can through dialogue and robust debate the way we are doing. It is intolerable for a society to pass through a critical phase of its existence, most in an election year, and they find people playing politics with Boko Haram and insurgency.
Okay,
That's
Dr. Denta,
line has to be crossed.
All right, thank you, Dr. Denta. We'll take a few moments and go on a quick break. We'll come back to continue our conversations. Please don't go away.